Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle. Rise tarnished. Because this month, Niall.
Oh, is it Elden Ring
21st,
DLC month?
You're not going to be able to talk to me the entire weekend. I'm not
Don't
checking
talk
my
to me
phone.
till I've had my Elden Ring DLC.
It's coming out in a fucking week. I do believe, in
Nice.
a little over a week or something like that. But, yeah, you're just not going to be able to get a hold of me. I will say though, followers of the show will be able to get a hold of me in Twitch chat because you know I'm going to be streaming that shit.
Hell yeah. When was the last time you played Elden Ring?
Well,
I'm just curious.
you mean on Twitch or on just
No,
for
just
fun?
like in real life.
So
Because
I-
I know it's been out for a minute and everything, and yeah.
Well, it was this morning.
Okay.
Because I was trying to. I have two characters that like basically not. Let me explain something to you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a particular level that's like sort of the meta game where it's like if you want to play against other players, this is about the level you usually want to get to in game, but you can go to like I think level 999 or something. It's
Okay.
like you can just keep going. And so I just wanted to like make sure these two characters that I've got are ready for streaming day. I had to go and get a couple levels in
doing
and
the
find a
prep
couple
work.
items, some prep work. But I'm just so stoked for Shadow of the Erd Tree. I've been going to. This is not a joke. What I'm about to say isn't a joke, and I know it sounds a little bit. I've been going to sleep with lore videos about the game.
Hell yeah. Okay. Going deep. I get it.
So, it's kind of you know how like we'll start these shows and
Yeah.
you'll be like I'll be like time to do a bit and I'll be like common writer fact. Well, that's me this week
Yeah.
with the Elden Ring
Look,
facts.
Over time, I think a podcast is really all about the whatever thing you're just like really
Yeah,
vibing on
that's
at the
true.
time. And we continue to try to vibe on the conspiracy stuff and everything, but there are going to be times where like
Yeah.
we just get obsessed
Well,
with something and it happens.
And the thing is, I am locking away another thing that I am vibing on right now because it relates to the podcast, but that's like a future episode. So I can't just sit here and talk to you about it. We which is like we designed our show to be that way. We should if we ever were just like maybe in the future we're gonna want to like talk about our topics with each other before we start recording. We fucked ourselves in that department.
yeah, we kind of made that the crucial fucking
That's the whole bit.
factor.
But no, I here's the thing. Like I have another thing that I'm like a little obsessed with right now. And I can't, it's one of those things where like, if I start talking about it, it's like way too easy to give it away. At least I think it is. So I can't tell you anything, Niall. I'm sorry. I got to keep it close to the chest. So you're going to have to settle for facts about Mikola the Golden. Mikola the kind-hearted one who strives clean the hearts of
Isn't
men.
there a fucking character in Elden Ring named Nile and you're not doing that?
That's true. There is Commander Nile who guards I think it's the fort in there's a big fort out in the mountaintop of the giants and he guards the I think veterans prosthesis or something, but like it's a whole thing, Nile, but there is a Nile and he's another one of those sort of like Souls player filters, I feel like, he feels like one of those bosses that if this is your first Souls game, you're gonna get really fucking frustrated with him. But if you're a veteran,
so it's the skill check. Okay.
yeah, well, not there's like early game skill checks, but then there's like I feel like it's like, all right, Elden Ring player who's never played Souls games before, you finally got this far, but also fuck you again is kind of how it feels. I think.
Yeah.
But there's a couple
All right.
bosses that fit that description. But yeah, look forward to Elden Ring weekend. Some It Gets Weird Twitch streams. Anyways, what the fuck are we talking about this week, Niall?
Oh, Kyle, I'm so glad you asked, because this week I wanted to talk about a man and his various accomplishments. And that man is one Clyde Tombaugh.
Okay.
Now, does that name ring any bells for you?
No, it does not.
Okay. So his big claim to fame, which we are going to talk about, is his discovery of the planet Pluto. He is an astronomer and focused a lot on near Earth objects, and specifically the big thing that people will talk about is he found Pluto.
Interesting. I mean, so Pluto. Okay, let me see if I can remember things about Pluto, because like for me, the big controversy with Pluto, very obvious. It got deplaneted. It got kind of, honestly, it got sort of like on a celestial level canceled.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I thought you were going to say cucked, and I think you could have gone either way if you went for your right wing
yeah,
pull. You know,
yeah, exactly.
got cucked by the Kuiper Belt.
Sorry, yeah, for the alt-right listeners who like maybe don't quite get what we're saying here. To make it easier for you to understand, Pluto got cucked.
Well, it's good that we can start off with a fucking good episode title, you know?
That's good. No, I'm just, what I was trying to piece together in my mind is like the timeline of, because wasn't Pluto like the last one discovered, quote unquote?
Correct.
Okay, so this guy could have been around maybe for the deplaneting of Pluto. Am I wrong?
The deplanetization of Pluto, I have that in my notes. Let me just pull up exactly.
Okay. Sorry, I realize I'm always hitting you with these things that make you have to scroll through your notes.
Oh, you're good.
But
they reclassified it in 2006,
right?
And he died in 1997, so he didn't see it happen. But I do have some remarks by his widow on the subject.
Oh, shit. On behalf of my dead husband, fuck you for the Pluto thing.
Oh, man. Now, there are other things we're going to talk about than just Pluto, because this man, not to get too far ahead of us, but this man also had some UFO sightings. So I want to, which is why I got into him, because I like, oh, the guy that found Pluto also saw UFOs. That's weird. And I will say, like, just to preface, the UFO sightings are not anything super spectacular, but it's the history of it is interesting enough on its own that it's worth talking about. The sightings just aren't like super spectacular. Mm-hmm. So, all right. I guess where to start. Clyde William Tombaugh was born in 1906 in Illinois, and he got interested in astronomy through his uncle, I guess. And the thing that, like, the reason I wasn't originally going to involve a lot of stuff about his scientific works, but it's interesting. Like, this was when the episode changed. So, he got started unable to afford to buy a telescope and having no formal like schooling or anything. He built his own telescope in his in the farm that he lived on, by digging a pit 24 feet long, 8 feet deep, and 7 feet wide, and like creating like a draft corridor to allow him to have the right conditions to see through this homemade fucking telescope and sketch designs of Jupiter and Mars.
Damn, that's pretty baller. Real quick, do people say baller anymore?
I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson killed it with his show.
Oh, right.
But I'm sure somebody will.
Let's bring back baller.
There's some snapback wearing motherfucker still saying it out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, me.
Fair enough. Yeah, you with your when you put on your Mega 64 snapback.
Oh, true.
You
I do actually
snap into fucking.
I do. I say bro like with more frequency, and baller definitely with more frequency.
So this guy literally sketched some planets through his homemade random like wild ass telescope, which I guess is still owned. Like we still have this telescope to this day, and it's on it's like in a museum somewhere. You can go see it, and I've seen pictures of it. It's pretty cool looking.
Okay.
But he sketched these things and sent them to the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, which on the level of detail and everything and the homemade nature of all of this, they gave him a fucking job. So
oh, really? Okay.
This guy was let's see, that would be, he started in 1929, so he would have been 26 at the time. He basically, without a college degree, built a telescope, sent some drawings to an observatory, and got a job as an astronomer with no qualifications.
That's the cool shit. That's where, like, the idea of like being so good at telescopes, the astronomy industry is just like, we can't not hire this guy. That's quite the move.
The fucking funniest part of it to me is it literally goes about, it was in 1930 when Tombaugh discovered Pluto, and the very next sentence, following his discovery, Tombaugh earned bachelor's and master's degrees in astronomy from the University of Kansas in 1936 and 38.
That's like crazy.
This guy discovered a new planet using a telescope. Like he didn't use that telescope to discover Pluto. They had a bigger telescope at the Lowell Observatory that he was using. But like, it's such a wild thing to do this at home without a degree in anything. Go there, discover a planet, and 6 years later start getting your fucking degree.
Yeah. No, I mean that's quite the trajectory. The thing is, I'm scared to say like I respect this guy. I think this guy's awesome. I'm scared to say those things because we haven't gotten to the controversy section of the Wikipedia page yet. But that is very impressive.
I didn't find a lot of controversy.
Okay.
Like the controversy with this is that Pluto got declassified. I didn't look. I did not do an exhaustive everything possible about this man, but I didn't come across any fucking
so it's
controversies.
Like, you know how it goes on this show. You list
100%.
something cool. Somebody tells a cool UFO story or whatever, or like is the first person to report a certain cryptid, and then you get to the part where like, by the way, there's a whole subsection on this guy's anti-Chinese sentiments. Like, yeah, that's just like how it goes.
Yeah, he's stumped for fucking local Nazis in his time period or whatever. Yeah, exactly. No, it's I didn't see anything like that. But that doesn't mean that he didn't. Who knows?
Cool.
So he basically how this all got started is he got a job there, and he was put on a project where he was basically there was a mathematical proof that we had another planet in the solar system, and they were trying to find it. So, and that's where the whole Planet X things comes from. When you're looking at like conspiracy theories and everything, Planet X was this undiscovered, mathematically proven planet that should be there or whatever. So, and it turned out to be Pluto, and then after that, I think it got like the Planet X idea got repurposed into the Nibiru shit later. Okay,
so Planet X is Pluto, basically. But
in this case, yes.
Okay, but yeah, for future conspiracy theorists, so wait, I guess my question is this: is it that they needed? So okay, I understand what happens here. They needed to have. There was a planet there, like where we fucking know it's there because of math. Mm-hmm. We're gonna call it Planet X, and then finally, when it's discovered, they're like, "Oh, Planet X is Pluto." Did the conspiracy theorists then see the phrase Planet X and just repurpose it? Is that the idea?
I need to dig into that, because back when I did the episodes on Planet X that I've done, it was before I did this stuff and knew the Pluto history of it.
I sort of remember reading at least one version or hearing about one version on the show where like Nibiru was like not even in the same like galaxy and was like traveling from another galaxy or something.
There's a couple different things with that. Like
it's been a minute.
You've got your like, it's on a cantered weird orbit that's really long, so it only crosses our galaxy every once in a while theory.
Okay.
You've also got it was in another place, and then due to like gravitational forces, two places collided, and that's where a lot of the ancient alien stuff starts. And then because that's like the seeding of Earth with the Anunnaki and shit was that collision that caused,
Yeah.
And so like there's all these different things with Planet X, and I just haven't like mapped it out in the way that I would need to give you a definitive answer on that question.
No, that's fair. I think the one that I'm thinking of is like there is a Planet X / Nibiru like theory, quote unquote conspiracy theory about like an artificial planet that's basically a Dyson sphere operated by like malevolent alien forces or whatever. Like,
yeah,
we're throwing, by the way, I just want to say we're throwing out a lot of terms here. So
look,
Google any one of those.
We also have episodes on Dyson spheres, Planet
true.
X and Nibiru, and yada, yada, yada. So if you search those things in your podcatcher, you might be able to find our episodes on those. I don't have I really should do the work before doing an episode and like come up with the episode numbers of the referenced things.
But one day we'll map it out. Don't you worry.
One day we'll be actually professional. So he worked there for a couple months, just kind of studying the skies, trying to search for this planet. And then he got access to a thing called a blink comparator, which I guess is kind of a thing they use to study different plates of images of the same section of the sky. And what it does is it switches between two images taken from the same position of a telescope at different times and flips between them easily, so that all of the stuff that is static in the sky will kind of be kind of removed, and things that move will be brighter. So it lets you see the comparative nature of these of time on these celestial objects and figure out which ones are moving is what this is. So that was kind of the thing that allowed him to search more intensely and allowed him to finally find Planet X, which would eventually, through some naming stuff, end up being called Pluto, which I have a little bit of information on the naming process here in a second. So the thing that he found was basically it was kind of contentious if it was a planet or not from its discovery. Like it was seen as as too small to be a planet even from the beginning, but because there weren't a lot of other celestial bodies surrounding it or anything, it wasn't a part of a cluster until we found the Kuiper belt. So it was just this weirdly sized object in our solar system that since they were looking for a planet, it became a planet. So like the whole thing with it being reclassified and everything, it's always been questionable.
Right.
And so like take that with that as you will. I don't have a strong opinion on Pluto as a planet, as like a deep-seated personal thing.
You will find some people who absolutely do have strongly held opinions about that. I do kind of, though, remember feeling a little bit betrayed because, like, I was you said it was 2006 when it got reclassified? I mean, we were in, grade school, and I feel like I just remember being like, well, what the fuck? You taught me that was a planet back in elementary school. So,
that would have been like our 8th grade freshman year kind of thing, most likely. So,
damn.
Yeah. Anyway, so he started to notice these things. He found that object out in the sky that he believed to be Planet X, and they knew that they wanted to name it kind of a classically mythological name. They were pretty popular amongst the proposals. The ones that were in the running were Minerva, Cronus, and Pluto. However, Minerva was already in use, and I didn't look into this, but I probably should have. It just says the primary supporter of Cronus was widely disliked. So basically, the wrong guy pitched Cronus, and no one liked him. And because an 11-year-old English schoolgirl said Pluto first, everyone liked that, and it became Pluto. So
yeah, we were putting out all these great names for this new planet, but Adolf Hitler was trying to vouch for Cronus. So maybe we don't name it that, because that guy's like really dead set on calling it Cronus.
Yeah. And that was kind of the naming process. That's not really super important, but I thought it was interesting. So so here's the details on what I was saying earlier. They realized even from the beginning that Pluto wasn't massive enough to be a full-blown 9th planet, and they started to try to figure out if it was the first of an entirely new class of object. So Tombaugh spent a good time after this searching for other what he called trans-Neptunian objects for years. He started looking for other objects outside of Neptune that are kind of linked to it to try to see if there's anything like Pluto out there, and didn't find really much of anything for a while. And it just kind of led to, because we didn't know what else to call it at the time, Pluto being called the ninth planet.
Interesting.
So he then that didn't stop him though. He started to he continued his search looking into near Earth objects as well. Like, he moved on from Pluto, but would like continue to kind of look at it over the years, but would find a bunch of other things for the next 15 years, including discovering a comet, various open clusters of stars and stuff, a globular cluster, which I don't entirely know what it is, and then a super cluster of galaxies between Andromeda and Perseus. So he has a lot of things known to him that are kind of that he found, over the years. So he eventually left, took a leave of absence from the observatory to go do some war-related navigation teaching. So I guess he felt kind of in World War II that he should go teach navigation. And it led to him being dismissed from Lowell, and he started to work at the White Sands Proving Grounds, looking at and working with optical tracking telescopes for the upcoming space program.
Wait.
So
White Sands.
Yep.
That's a famous location. Where is that?
Yes, it is. I believe it's in...
Is that in Arizona?
I think it's in New Mexico.
New Mexico?
But it's one of the two.
I think
there
White
is
Sands,
one of his UFO sightings took place at White Sands and involves some other people, so you might have heard about
White
that.
Sands, I think, is a little bit notorious for UFO sightings and also has military, like Air Force Base stuff, I think. Yep. I could be off, but I think so.
Yeah, the White Sands.
They
UFO
have the
incident
missile range.
Yep.
I think is what it is.
Yeah, White Sands Missile Range. It's in New Mexico. So
Okay.
he also then eventually would go on to found the astronomy program at New Mexico State University. He retired eventually in 1973, but continued to give lectures pretty much until his death. So that's kind of his professional career. In a nutshell. Just like the postscript is the stuff about Pluto being changed in 2006 to be classified as a dwarf planet. Tombaugh's widow, Patricia, stated after the decision that he might have been disappointed with the change since he had resisted attempts to remove Pluto's planetary status in his lifetime, but she believed that he would have accepted the decision if he had been alive.
I mean, look, I get it. You discover a thing, people are like, wow, you found a planet, good job, buddy, here's a degree, here's all this shit, and then they're just like, let's maybe not call a planet, let's call it something less cool. And he's like, man, come on, let me have this.
Yeah,
please.
She did. This is a quote directly from his widow that I thought was pretty funny. She noted that, quote, he was a scientist. He would understand that they had a real problem when they started finding several of these things flying around the place.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, a dwarf planet, it still has planet in the name.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, and if another astronomer that's somewhat famous, Hal Levison, I guess, said upon Tombaugh's death, Clyde Tombaugh discovered the Kuiper Belt. That's a hell of a lot more interesting than the ninth planet. So he a lot of people think, he did perfectly well for himself.
Fair enough.
So since we got that's the normal shit. That's your normie shit where he's finding planets, he's doing research with scientists. Let's get into his fucking UFO shit, okay?
I'm so ready. Can I just say also, though, I have a really weird thing. I have respect for, a person who's just I'm just going to fucking stare at the night sky and find stuff. Because, this is very weird. And I don't know what this is all about. But
okay,
at some point in my life, I start, if I go out at night and stare up into the sky, I become really overwhelmed with this irrational fear that I'm no longer going to be able to stay on ground. I'm going to fall.
Okay.
I have no idea what causes it. A blue day, sky during the day, totally fine. Nighttime, black stars.
Oh, so it's just a nighttime.
It's just a nighttime thing. So for whatever reason, I don't think I could be an astronomer staring at the night sky all the time, because it just gives me this like, I have no fucking idea what it is. I get this sensation of like I'm going to fall off the planet and into the abyss.
I think you read Falling Up too many times as a child.
I've never read Falling Up. What is that?
Oh, it's a Shel Silverstein thing. It's one of his books.
Right. Okay, I remember that.
And it's you know, it's not as well known as you know, Where the Sidewalk Ends or whatever, but it's good.
The thing is, the feeling is amplified if I'm like really high up. And the first time I remember having this feeling was it was like a tall building that had like a patio that you could go out and dine on, and it was just open up at the top, and it was nighttime. And I remember being out on that patio probably like 20 stories up, and like being really like that sensation hit me, and I constantly get it no matter where I am, but like being like in a high place amplifies it. I guess what I'm saying is, you know, any psychologists listening want to email the podcast. Let me know what's up with like, that.
The quote normal fear when looking at the night sky is a sense of your smallness in the grandness of the universe.
That like, just feels cool to me.
Yeah, like some people vibe on that, and some people are really disturbed by it. I tend to vibe on it pretty well. I vibe on the if nothing matters, then it doesn't. You know, things are easier.
Yeah.
Brain set, you know?
Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like thinking if it's like, because like I 100% have a fear of heights. And I'm wondering if just like, if you look up and you can't see the ground around you, and then you just have this like nighttime abyss, then it could like almost be like simulation being really high up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't really know what it is, but look, shouts out to astronomers, I guess.
I'm gonna see if I can be the Clyde Tombaugh of psychology and just start practicing without
just start throwing some things out there. Start using some terms. You know, invent whatever the fuck it is I've got with the night sky here, and that can be your big invention. You know, like Munchausen did with his biproxy. So
yeah.
Sorry, we were going to talk about UFOs, I think.
Fucking hell. All right. So there are a couple. He had a couple UFO sightings throughout his career. Most famously was his first sighting, which took place in 1949. Or no, sorry. There's let's see. Yeah, 1949. In near Las Cruces, New Mexico. So a lot of this stuff happened later. So like, just to put it in perspective, he found Pluto in 1930. This first sighting is in 1949. So by this point, he's left Lowell and is working at White Sands and doing stuff like that. So we're beyond that initial phase. He saw several unidentified objects along with he was with his family. And I have the actual official statement that Clyde wrote after this when he was submitting this to the military. Ooh. Now, this statement was written in 1957, just to be clear. So it was written after the fact, but this is his official testimony of what he saw that day.
Okay, interesting.
I saw the object about 11 o'clock one night in August 1949 from the backyard of my home in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I happened to be looking at zenith, admiring the beneficial transparent sky of stars when... Oh, no, sorry. The beautiful transparent... Sorry. This is an old typed up like typewriter page. Oh, I had to blow it up to get it fully. So it is not the most legible thing in existence.
Sure.
Admiring the beautiful transparent sky of stars when suddenly I spied a geometrical group of faint bluish-green rectangles of light similar to the Lubbock Lights. My wife and her mother were sitting in the yard with me, and they saw them also. The group moved southeasterly. The individual rectangles became foreshortened, their space of formation smaller, at first about 1 degree across, and the intensity duller, fading from view at about 35 degrees above the horizon. Total time of visibility was about 3 seconds. I was too flabbergasted to count the numbers of rectangles of light or to note some other features I wondered about later. There was no sound. I have done thousands of hours of night sky watching, but never saw a sight as strange as this. The rectangles of light were of low luminosity. Had there been a full moon in the sky, I am sure they would not have been visible.
Huh.
So he saw a cluster of rectangles in the sky,
yeah.
blue-green lights, that moved in the way that you would expect these things to move, with foreshortening as they got further away and everything. And so the fact that he had that level of detail on that one specific thing and didn't know it, like, this is one of those UFO sightings that I'm like, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Like, you just saw some lights in the sky that you didn't know exactly what they were. It wasn't anything you knew, and you're not making any wild claims as to them targeting you, coming at you for a specific reason, or seeing something up close and in a way that is stretching believability. So that's why I think the fact that he is a noted astronomer with a lot of actual accomplishments under his belt, that even, like, if you tell, oh yeah, this is the guy that discovered Pluto, even my mom would be like, oh yeah, sure, okay, it's the guy that discovered Pluto. He probably knows what he's talking about.
Look, I'm more ready to believe an astronomer than a cop or a
100% man.
You know, like, and here's the thing too. He also makes reference to the Lubbock lights, so he's also, like, at least somewhat aware of, like, UFO stuff.
Yes.
But yeah,
so
and I mean, it's like, this is also technically during the 50s, where UFOs were a big fucking deal in the United States too. So
yeah, this is like in the middle of the fucking, UFO boom.
Mm-hmm.
It, like, post Roswell. Since we're in 1949, and then his statement was 57, so we're full blown in that era, and he will have some dealings with some people that I think we've talked about before.
Oh, okay.
With
that's kind of ominous.
Well, there's I forget if we've talked about this specific UFO debunker, but one guy really takes issue with him. His name is Donald Menzel.
Oh yeah.
Runs the Harvard Astronomy Department and is a noted UFO debunker with 3 different books about the subject, or at least as of the time of what I was looking at here. And one of them, specifically his first book in 1953, UFOs, Flying Saucer, Myth, Truth, and History, he does take shots at Clyde and say that basically Clyde couldn't have seen what he says, and it was actually a temperature inversion, and kind of Jesus. Badgers the guy.
Look, here's the thing, and I feel like I feel like I've said this recently on the show, but whatever, I'll say it again. It's fine to be skeptical. I think that's very rational. But I think there's a really weird, especially there's this mentality of, like, debunkers where they're just like, all UFO sightings are fucking bullshit. There's no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're just like, every single one of these people is full of shit.
Kyle, I'm so glad you said that, because that is exactly who Donald Menzel is.
Yeah, I know.
He straight up went to Congress, and for anyone that doesn't know, he straight up, like, testified at Congress, and even they thought he was, like, a little much. Like, it's the way that he talks about and talks to people that believe in UFOs, even people who are skeptical.
Yeah.
Don't seem to really vibe with this guy, because he's just very unpleasant.
I do kind of understand the sort of knee-jerk reaction to, I don't know. It's like, I don't know why you would just, like, outright try your best to discredit people with, like, in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's
Kyle, that's a very good question.
Okay.
And I might have found the answer to that, but it would be entirely its own episode.
Donald Menzel. I don't know if we've, like, talked about him much on the show, but I've read about him, but I don't know a ton about him. So
let me just, I think you will understand why he's going to be his own episode when I explain one thing.
Okay.
So while I was looking for info on the whole Menzel Clyde Tombaugh beef, because I was finding a lot of stuff that came later, and I was trying to figure out, like, what started it, where, all that stuff. I came across a website that has a timeline of Donald Menzel's work in debunking UFOs effectively. And that website that holds this thing happens to be richarddolanmember.com.
Oh.
Because the reason this timeline exists is because there is a theory that Donald Menzel was a CIA or government funded anti-UFO debunker.
I thought that might be where this was going. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. That would be a good episode.
Yep.
I mean, like,
so richarddolanmembers.com. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list and see if I can get some more info on Donald Menzel.
I said it before, how like my trajectory with UFOs went from like hard fucking skeptic who also dismisses everything to, oh wow, wait, I don't know what these people are seeing, that's pretty weird, to, oh shit, okay, UFOs are real, but with an asterisk, you know, like it's like especially on a case by case basis. But that's I don't like that outright dismissal at all.
It's just one of those things where I don't implicitly agree with or disagree with a lot of debunkers, or like either like some debunkers seem like they're in it for a grift as much as the people writing the books are, and that sucks.
Sure. Yeah.
But like I
fucking telling this astronomer that the square lights he saw were temperature inversions is such, I mean, it's swamp gas shit. You know, it's like
it is. It's
you know, whatever. And you know, again, I think though for me, it's like I don't follow the extraterrestrial hypothesis at all. But if you were to just be like, yeah, oh, the guy who like works near the White Sands missile range saw some weird ass lights. That there could be an interesting terrestrial explanation for that, I think.
Yeah, and like there were people that there's a guy quoted in one of the resources that I've been using, Dr. James McDonald, who is an atmospheric physicist at the University of Arizona, who kind of got interested in the Tombaugh stuff and read the Donald Menzel reports on it, and basically was like, yeah, Menzel's full of shit. The thing that he's saying is not like what he's saying would not explain what happened at all. Like, so there's a lot of back and forth on both sides of like, this is absolute bullshit. No, what you're saying is bullshit. No, what you're saying is like, so really I fall down the side of like, what he saw is not that crazy for a UFO sighting and could be explained by a lot of different reasons. Mm-hmm. So I kind of think, you know, he probably saw something in the sky.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was an alien craft of some kind, I don't necessarily know. But it's the level that Menzel came out against him was like
seems aggressive, maybe.
It just felt like a weird pitch. Like I don't know the full context of how the turn in Tombaugh's career was at the time or whatever, but it was strange, you know?
Yeah.
So so we have people on both sides. We have Clyde who has the sighting. We have Menzel trying to debunk him, and then we got Dr. James McDonald trying to debunk Menzel. And all of this might be wrapped up in a government psyop. So this was not the only sighting that Tombaugh experienced in his lifetime. He had two more that were both pretty kind of minimal. The next one was at White Sands, where him and another guy named La Paz saw another craft, and that's what you'll see mostly referenced as the White Sands encounter. And it was another just like lights thing. It wasn't, none of his were like seeing a craft land or seeing a craft super close. It was just seeing lights in the sky, you know? Mm-hmm. But in this setting, you get some stuff. His second sighting is written about in some of Donald Kehoe's books. So that's where we'll get a lot of those stuff. And I don't think in the original books, he is, Tombaugh is like mentioned by name. It's kind of a side. He kind of like I said at the beginning, at the beginning of this section, only one of his sightings is like super public and known, and that's that first one. And then the other ones we kind of found out later that he was involved by like piecing some stuff together.
Do you happen to know which Kehoe book he was referenced in? Because like I skimmed through two of those books.
It was his book in 1955. Which
okay, that's the original. That's oh God, whatever, flying saucers are real, I think, or something like
Yeah,
that.
they all have those, like,
Yeah.
all of these books have the same name.
Yeah, it's the one that I think is the same name as his original article in True or whatever the magazine's called. But I
Yeah.
did go through a good chunk of that book. I don't remember reading that, but he did have a couple things where it would just be like, an astronomer says this, this military personnel says this. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. So basically he got drawn in on a rumor that was in that book that the Air Force was searching for various small satellites orbiting Earth. It was initiated well before Sputnik existed. And Kehoe basically got the rumor for him confirmed by a news release saying that White Sands was to make a sky search for various satellites. And that led him to believe that in reality they're looking for something much more sinister. And Tombaugh was he said that Tombaugh was the head of the project, which was like kind of true. He was kind of he was part leading the project, but he didn't like run it entirely. So like basically Kehoe had heard about a rumor. He was like 90% correct about it in his book. But we didn't get a lot of detail because it was just this like weird rumor of them seeing these objects in the sky.
You know, Kehoe still is coming from the angle of the extraterrestrial hypothesis, but like prior even to Sputnik, like we knew that people were experimenting with like satellite like craft and things like that. That was a pretty well established thing. So, you know,
yeah,
it could still be that they were just like racing the Soviet Union to like get a satellite up there. You know, that's I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. So there is a quote from Tombaugh about the way that he felt the book depicted the project he worked on. So he said, I have seen 3 objects within the past 7 years which defied any explanation of known phenomena, such as Venus, atmospheric optics, meteors, or planes. I am a professional, highly skilled observing astronomer. In addition, I have seen 3 green fireballs, which were unusual in behavior from scores of normal green fireballs. I think that several reputable scientists are being unscientific in refusing to entertain the possibility of extraterrestrial origin in nature.
Okay.
It is yet too early for any decisions of finality.
This is our Pluto guy saying this?
It is a paraphrased from a book by the guy that he was corresponding with, Len Springfield, quote by Tombaugh about the Kehoe book. So, yeah.
Okay. I guess that's a little fair, but also, you know, I've seen a green fireball. Thought that was... It's
but have you
looking.
seen enough green fireballs to notice that 3 of them behaved differently?
I mean, I guess not.
Yeah, it's because he saw 3 that behaved weirdly and then a bunch of others that were just actual green fireballs, which is like, I like the way that he approaches that, where it's like, I've seen enough to know that these are weird. I don't know what they are, but they're weird. I just can't I can't fully say no to anything because I am a scientist and I refuse to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So the last thing of note that we're going to talk about here is he has some dealings with the planet Mars.
Okay, like the people of Mars. He's got like a...
I mean, possibly, because what he sees is effectively there was this thing. This is basically, as far as I can tell, which this might become its own episode at some point. I believe that I found the incident that predates all of the Mars science fiction of the era, and the reason for a lot of it existing is in this time period. I think it was in 1937 was the first one. There was an unexplained explosion that was seen on Mars. It was like a flash of light on the surface of Mars that couldn't be explained by like an impact of like a crater of like a meteor or something hitting it. And so there started to be this theory amongst people, like as the stuff started to spin out of control because it was getting reported and that there was this weird light on Mars. So people started to think that it was a bomb. And this is a thing that led to people like Edgar Rice Burroughs. Supposedly this led to the inspiration for the John Carter's of Mars novel, where the fact that there was this explosion on Mars means there's this, civilization there that has bombs and stuff. And that's like was seemingly part of his interest in the subject. But there were reported explosions on Mars in 51, 54, and 55. And so all of this led to basically this interest in Mars at the time to try to figure out what these explosions were. And so that got kind of roped into the alien search and everything, and like made Mars an object of interest for those kinds of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, do we know what the explosions on Mars were?
I didn't. Let me see if I have. I don't know if I actually have a full blown reasoning for that. I don't know if we know for sure what they are.
Oh wow. Okay. Weird.
Tombaugh described it as looking like the flash of an atomic explosion of some sort. But we don't actually know, as far as I know. Yeah. So since he was involved with a lot of like sky searching stuff, he was aware of this at the time and kind of had theories on the subject, thinking that maybe there was some life on Mars causing this explosions and stuff. But he was kind of brought into that theory because of someone he was working with named Commander McLaughlin, who believed that various flying discs that were being kind of talked about in the military at the time and everything were extraterrestrial and maybe from Mars. So there was this whole idea that like the aliens that we were seeing in these UFOs were from Mars, and that roped in the frenzy of this like sci-fi thing that was happening. Like, it's one of those things where pop culture and conspiracy culture like collapsed at the same time, like kind of fell into each other at the same time and birthed a whole new thing that now feels like it's always been there, you know?
Yeah.
The whole like Martian people with fucking advanced technology and that's where aliens, like the Martian, like the little green men from Mars, like we're at the beginning of the idea of that here.
Interesting. Now, I do want to just tell you that cursory Google the Journal of Cosmology.com abstract, evidence of massive thermonuclear explosions in Mars past, the Sidonian hypothesis, and Fermi's paradox.
Yeah. Okay.
So like 2014, 2015, I found some papers of people talking about, there's a Harvard paper, but I don't know. I don't know if they know. That's interesting. That's kind of cool.
Still, but the theory that Tombaugh kind of made out of all of this kind of muck that I thought was interesting was, hey, we saw this wild ass flash on Mars that looks like a nuclear bomb blast. So is the reason why aliens are coming to Earth because they saw our atomic bomb tests and saw basically that there was another planet that had people on it that was experiencing something horrible,
right? And
they decided to come check it out. So that kind of starts that's where this theory for him kind of started, was this flash of light on Mars. And I don't think he really did a lot with this theory. Like he never went, as far as I can tell, full blown like UFO guy. This was like a side thing that
he sounds like the guy who's just like, honestly, he sounds like the guy that I talk to anytime I'm asked about UFOs now, which is like, you can't possibly just dismiss the possibility of the existence of aliens. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty, I get that. That makes some sense. But
yeah,
weird stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird ending to his, cause like this guy isn't big in the field of UFOs in that way. He just is notable enough outside of it that like
him experiencing,
he gets kind
UFOs.
Of brought into the UFO stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought he was interesting. Like, I think he's like a weird fucking guy that succeeded beyond what he like it. His story is just interesting to me.
No, that's cool.
And the idea that I fell backward, like the amount of times that since that you started doing those episodes that I've come across goddamn Richard Dolan and trying to research shit.
Yeah.
It's like it's fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
But also kind of cool because it adds to like Richard Dolan has become the like unofficial like mythos of this podcast of like trying to figure out his hands in UFO history.
I apparently had richarddolanmembers.com bookmarked on, it turns out. So,
well, if you go there and look up Donald Menzel, you'll find a timeline of his efforts in UFO debunking and maybe his ties to one Richard Dolan.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah. All right.
Whew.
I think that's basically everything. I didn't get a lot of details about the times he saw the green fireballs or anything. He kind of just like mentioned these things offhandedly when people were asking him other things.
No, I'd be curious, like what, because like there's a pretty easy explanation for green fireballs, but green fireballs, like I wish I knew what he meant by behave differently, because I do know that green fireballs are supposed to be a far less common type of UFO. And they've been like reported before, but like usually it's just like, well, it's the chemical components of like a meteorite or whatever, right? But like, I don't know, behaving strangely sort of suggests it's something else maybe. But like, I don't know, can something in our atmosphere or whatever cause like a meteorite, like if it catches it the right way to, I'm asking questions that I don't think either of us would know the answer to.
I truly have no idea. I like talking about like the refraction of light through our atmosphere is not something that I have a lot of information on, unfortunately.
That would be, I don't know, but that's interesting. And yeah, I'm glad that the guy who discovered Pluto also got to see some UFOs before he kicked the bucket. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. So I guess let's do a big question.
Sure.
So my big question is basically, what do you think the Martians or whoever it is were doing back in the 30s and 40s up through the 50s to make these massive flashes of light happen that were visible all the way on Earth?
I mean, they're probably just doing the same shit that we were doing down here on Earth, which is like participation in a planet-wide dick measuring contest with our nukes and our space race and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the Mars was like, oh, you guys too? Check this out. Look what we got. We got nukes. What of it?
Same
honestly,
bloodthirst.
Nukes are like nothing to us, man. We're on another level up here. We got Mars nukes. I mean, that's what that stuff sort of boils down to, at least in my mind, is just like who's got the bigger fucking missile.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's that, or it's the other option is like the Martians were fucking having a rager, and Glorg accidentally pressed the button in the middle of the party and just like blew everybody up. That's the other option.
So Martian ragers require like an instant self-destruct button to be available at all times.
there's like a big red button in the Martian base that they were partying on. And it's got one of those glass cases, and it says, like, do not press in Martian.
Mm-hmm.
And so Glorg, when he's had, like, one too many Martian beers, he's just like, fucking, I got to press buttons, brother. I got to get... I gotta get
like
on the,
do press.
I gotta get on the console and just start smacking shit and seeing what they do. So it's one of those two. I don't think it could possibly be anything else. I mean, what I was seeing online, what I was seeing on like the couple papers was like they were sort of suggesting that there were like these isotopes, like this particular makeup of Mars could like make like. Honestly, everything I was saying was like people have suggested X and people have suggested Y, and it has to do with like the actual like chemicals or whatever on Mars. But all of these suggestions seem to be insufficient, so we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I've sort of seen. So I think I'm putting my fucking flag down. I think it's one of the ones that I'm suggesting. But what do you think?
My theory is based on the fact that we got 1 in 37, and then we got 51, 54, and 55. Now, what that timeline says to me personally is the movie initially, and then the kind of cash-in sequels later on. So what I think is happening here is Much because we talk about like, intergalactic film industry is like a thing in this in our universe here.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had the fucking I don't know, like the Martian equivalent of Roland Emmerich or a Michael Bay, like a big special effects filmmaker.
So they're just, I see.
And they were doing like a fucking Cataclysm type movie, like big fucking like big project. And
we've forgotten that like there is an intergalactic Netflix operation. Like Mars would probably be a good hotspot. Maybe Mars is like the Hollywood of planets.
It could be. See, I was going to go more granular and call them like maybe they're like the Aeon, they're like the Neon or A24 of planets. But it's I think you got a point.
Now, what were the years did you say that these explosions occurred?
37 was the first one, and then there's a break, and then we have 51, 54, and 55.
All right, I have a new theory.
Okay.
I think these explosions actually may have been to celebrate the life of the Big Bopper.
Okay, and why? So explain the causality of the four events
birthday
here.
In 1937.
Okay.
And then as he reached the end of his life and he was going to go down in a blaze of glory, which, the Martians did orchestrate.
When did he die? I don't know this.
59.
Okay.
So he was born in 1930, died in 59.
So 37, 51, 54, and 55, none of these are like crucial years in his life as far as I can tell.
Maybe not for him, but for aliens, those are the crucial years.
Okay, so they were
we're
kind of like they were doing the thing that we do where we try to like graft human concepts onto a different species.
Martians are just like, well, we love the Big Bopper. Well, we got to celebrate him the Martian way.
Well, at age 7, that's first puberty, and then you got 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That fucking
exactly.
There's a second one in there that they forgot to add in. So they only have puberties 1, 3, and 4, and 5.
Yeah. They wrote 1, 3, 4, and 5 on a handful of puberties and set them free. And had
for some reason
Martians
have no concept of the number 2.
Yeah.
They go straight from 1 to 3.
They skip it. It's
sometimes you just say things.
Yeah. Well, Niall, I'm going to be so real with you right now. Our entire show is about just saying shit.
Yeah.
Just saying whatever the hell you want. And so I'm saying final answer, celebration of the life of the Big Bopper. Kids these days don't know about the Big Bopper.
I mean, do they have to really?
They're too busy with iPad looking up Big Bopper facts.
Siri, Google Big Bopper. Siri, safe search.
Yeah. They don't know about Chantilly lace, and they don't know about him dying in what was it, a plane crash?
Yeah, he went down in the American Pie plane crash, right?
Yeah, and like people don't know about.
Or am I thinking of the wrong guy?
No, I think you're right. The Purple People Eater meets the Witch Doctor. People.
Okay, now you're just Googling his song titles.
You don't know about the Purple People Eater?
I do, but I don't know the sequel where he faces a witch.
I think that's the original.
Oh, is it?
I think that's the original title, maybe.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, look, kids these days don't know about the Big Bopper and all the things I just listed because iPad and woke.
And that's a problem.
And that's a problem for me.
People need to know the equivalent of a pop star from the 1930s. You know?
Well, it would have been like the 50s, 40s, and 50s maybe because he was a child in the 30s.
Well, he only lived for fucking 26 years or whatever, 28 years. Yeah, so it's there's not too long to go for.
He died young, but he left a big legacy.
Died young and he left a Big Bopper. So I don't know. I think that'll bring us.
Do
to some
you
business.
think that the 9/11 laser grid got the Big Bopper's plane actually? You know how there's a grid?
There's the fucking space lasers. I know what you're of course I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Cool.
But I'm just trying to think those
maybe
were
they're just like they're just like we got to test this out because we're going to do 9/11 in the future.
So in this theory there's then the second part of that sentence, and to cover our tracks we're going to use it in the past to take out a plane.
Well, no, this is a long time coming plan. I'm saying in the 1950s, they were like, we got to test out this space laser thing. So of course we did. We had advanced technology that we were fucking taking from Roswell, if you'll remember. And so they were we got to get this fucking Buddy Holly guy and the Big Bopper, and let's just have them become fucking martyrs for our future 9/11 that we're going to do. We're going to do 9/11 with the same technology, just we want to make sure it works. And then we're going to lay low for a while. And then September 2001 rolls around. Buddy, do not go to New York. We have got the Big Bopper laser. Just for people who are thinking I'm just being flat out offensive. One, I kind of am. But two, there are people who believe that lasers destroyed the Twin Towers.
And yet again,
we did an episode on that, right?
There's an episode on that in our archives.
Yeah, if you want to check that out, there are people who believe that.
I did an episode on a person that very much believes that theory.
Very interesting. Anyways, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting with stuff.
You're totally fine. I just I'm not going to stand in the way of you talking about space lasers. All right.
Thank you.
I guess let's take care of some business.
Sure.
So if you want to find us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
Twitch.tv/itgetsweird. On the sacred day, the shadow of the Erd tree, you are going to find me there with my ass in my seat playing live on Twitch. So come check it out. I might even be able to rope Colin in. We'll see. Email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. What was your favorite Big Bopper fact? Let us know. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, right now, we're watching the X-Files Season 2. And you can hear us talk about it on the $2 tier. On the $5 tier, there's another bonus show that comes out in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV, which is the $2 tier show. And whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out. You can talk to us directly about Bigfoot, about 9/11, about fake medicine or what's pseudoscience or whatever. And
we have a piss
conspiracies.
channel.
We do have we have a piss channel now. For all the piss related content. So donate, please donate. And there's also a $1 tier that's just a tip. You don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.
Peace.